Hey, good day, everyone. Carm Capriato from the Remarkable Results Radio podcast and another live Town Hall Academy as we do at noon on Fridays at 12 Eastern. We're not only in our Zoom webinar, but the big audience is over on Facebook. Glad to have you here. We're going to talk about multiple labor rates and matrix parts margins and the power of the SMS system. I do want to thank Jasper Engines and Transmissions for their support. Jasper has over 2,000 associates. Yes, an associate-owned company. They have 3 manufacturing facilities, 2 distribution centers, and 45 branch offices across the country. They're all working to produce, transport, and deliver the perfect product. That's what they do best, keep customers happy. Well, let me say that if anyone has gotten a Jasper newsletter this week, you'll see my cute little mug and a great article from me in it. Thank you, Jasper, for putting out some very interesting things about a past academy. Hey, at this current time right now in our world, we've had hurricanes. It's been an interesting year for devastation, and there's some fires going on up in the Napa-Sonoma Valley. Malin, you're from that area, and I know we have probably lost a few fellow shops. What's going on out there?
Well, we actually have fires in Northern California and Southern California, and we've had a lot of shop owners impacted from this. I know of 2 personally have lost pretty much everything they own. So through the Automotive Service Councils of California, they've started a GoFundMe page to help them with the basic necessities. They're insured, but you never have enough insurance. And there's all the little things like clothes and socks and shoes that you forget about. So what I'm asking is our community, the automotive industry community from all over the United States and the world, in fact, to help these shop owners out in their time of need. It would be very much appreciated.
Do you have any kind of URL yet?
I will be sending that to you, Carm, here in just a few minutes. And if you wouldn't mind posting that, that would be great.
No, I would love to post it on Facebook. In fact, when we're done, I'll post it up at the end here. And hey, listen, everyone, anything I could do, ASECA and the membership out there are so loyal to the podcast, got a great relationship with them. So, maybe we need to do a fundraising telethon and use our bully pulpit for that, for not just what's going on there, but stop and think about it. What else can we do to help the industry? Multiple labor rates and matrix parts margins and the power of the SMS. There's been some interesting discussion lately on that, and I'm so glad we were able to convene a great panel. John Francis, say hi, from Francis Automotive Service in Westchester, PA. And we also have Bill DeBoyer from DeBoyer's Auto Sales and Service in Hamburg, New Jersey. Hey, Bill.
Hi, guys.
And Malin Newton from ESI, great loyal fan of the podcast and contributor from Educational Seminars Institute.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, man. And you've been everywhere in the last month doing some training. Glad to see you here. So, guys, let's jump in this. One of the things that I had, shop owners tell me, Malin, is that there's this way that you could use multiple labor rates to stay competitive. Do you hear you guys telling you that?
Well, it's something that we teach. I'm a firm believer in multiple labor rates because it allows the less technical jobs to be at a more competitive rate. For example, a basic brake job is less technically taxing as a drivability diagnosis. By having different labor rates for them, you can be a little more competitive with the brake jobs or the service work, as opposed to charging everybody the high-end, high-tech OBD2 diagnostic times.
Got it.
And labor rates.
Bill, do you do that? You have different labor rates depending on job?
Yeah, well, we definitely have different labor rates based on jobs, either an oil change or diag. How we kind of build it, our SMS allows us to have like 4 or 5 different categories. But the way we kind of build it out as different menu items inside the job, the canned jobs itself. So that's where we kind of control the labor rate there versus the blanket.
Got it. Does it depend on the state? Do you have to post those different labor rates or just one?
New Jersey doesn't require you to post any labor rates at all. So,
how about PA, John? You got to post a labor rate?
No, we don't. Not at all.
Got it. I'm in New York, and they have to post a labor rate, and I'm not sure what goes on with other shop owners that have multiple labor rates. Would a labor rate also include fleet?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're going to do fleet work and you're going to lower your price, which I'm not advocate of, you should have a fleet rate.
Yeah, the way we use our SMS, we control the discount at the customer level versus having just a fleet rate in our system. That's how we use it.
Bill, just tell me, what's your SMS? Whose do you use?
We use WinWorks currently.
WinWorks. And John, what do you use in your shop?
Mitchell.
You use Mitchell. Got it. So, John, I think we can talk labor rates all the time, but you've got to really know what your effective labor rate is, right?
Well, yeah, that's my biggest focus in my shop and shops that I work with and shops that I just talk with is, 15 years ago, nobody even knew what effective labor rate was. And that's a big number. And one of the first things that happens if I get a new client or, working with a friend or something, and what's the effective labor rate? Because people most times nobody wants to raise their labor rate. I don't want to raise my rate. They're afraid to do that. But knowing what your true effective labor rate is huge, because a guy could have a posted door rate of 95 and his effective labor rate is 65. And for every hour that the techs are billing, they're getting $65 and the owner thinks he's getting 90.
Right. By the way, John mentioned shops he works with. Excuse me. John is a part-time business coach for Elite, business development coach for Elite. And so when you hear John talk about other shops, that's what he means. What are some ways, John, to start multiple labor rates?
Well, some of the ways, when customers call at my shop, and for years and years, you get the calls, how much per hour do you charge? And really the honest answer is, if you called our shop today, I'd say it's anywhere from $14 an hour to $129 an hour, depending on whether we're changing your oil, inspecting your car, doing a water pump, or doing diagnostic work. And that's an honest answer. And that's the way you have to go to business today, I feel. So,
thank you for that. What about, Bill, I want to ask you, labor rates inside, does your SMS promote that?
They don't really promote it. We control it. Where we really focus is they got a nice profit indicator on each repair order. You got a red, yellow, and green light to monitor the profitability of the ticket. So that's kind of like our biggest check mark as we're building out estimates and repair orders.
Okay, so you really start with a blank screen, right? A blank slate. What are you using? What are your matrix labor rates? What are your segments actually?
So, we have canned jobs that are like, take an oil change, for example. Like we'll go in and we'll add the parts, the oil, the filter, and then there's a button that you hit for menu pricing. So we put in our menu price and then it forces the labor and the parts to balance out so that it comes to the price that we're desiring.
Got it. You had told me, Carm, the labor rates inside the SMS. I'm not sure if you told me it was your SMS or the WinWorks, retail, wholesale, commercial, special, warranty. Explain them to me.
Yeah. So if you had, your fleet accounts, your retail accounts, you can go in if you wanted to and discriminate the labor prices for each of those categories. So if you had a fleet person that you're given, a 10% labor discount on, you can set it up that way. So, when you built the ticket, it would be charged appropriately. The way we handle it is there's another way that you can do it, and you can assign discounts at the customer level. So, enterprise will get a different discount than another fleet provider that we have. So
big question, guys. Here I have a fleet customer coming in, and we're going to have to do some pretty heavy diagnostics on this F-150. Are they going to get a different labor rate because it's diagnostics, even though they're fleet, and they may have a different rate?
Yeah, so that's why we kind of control everything. Like, we don't let that SMS control that part. So we build it on the ticket level. So if they're getting charged diag, they're getting charged diag, and then the discount will be whatever's negotiated into it.
Okay, so each fleet would
Right.
have earned
So
a
there's
special.
a number of different ways to skin
Got it.
that. I mean,
I
the bottom
understand.
line is you can control the pricing at different areas inside our system.
Malin, you're out at many shops. You're talking to so many service professionals every week. What do you hear they're struggling with in helping an SMS improve their profitability?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, that computer system needs to be set up properly with actual cost of doing business in it. Biggest failure I see in a lot of people is they've never updated their labor cost, or they don't input the current cost of the parts in. So the profit indicator is way off base. So that's the first thing, is set it up properly, the old adage of garbage in, garbage out. And I've seen computer systems that are probably 5 years outdated in cost of labor and such. But by using it and using it consistently with the ability of multiple labor rates and then the pricing matrix on parts, it builds consistency in your estimates. So you're going to make more money on every ticket because you're doing it the same way every time. One of our biggest problems, I feel, in the automotive industry is we hinge too much on that hourly rate. In a lot of cases, when you get right down to it, we're not charging by the hour because we're using the flat rate book. And in some states, if you charge flat rate time and you tell people you're charging by the book and you do it in less and you don't adjust your pricing accordingly, you've actually committed fraud. So, my answer to how much is my hourly rate is I don't have one. I charge by the job based on the inspection of my staff, not the flat rate book and not by a posted hourly rate. In my opinion, the posted hourly rate is an accounting number. That's all it's used for. So we evaluate every car. And, most of my shops, I advocate 5 different labor rates, at a minimum of 5 different labor rates. And we use those as the basis of writing the estimate.
I just had this thought about the companies out there like Repair Pal, good company. I know the people there, and they bring business in, but these customers still want to know the price of the job. You find that that's a challenge for a lot of shop owners?
I think it is because in California, the labor rate varies from $120, $130 to $180, $190 an hour. And people don't understand that the cost of doing business affects that hourly rate, or it should, because you set your hourly rate based on your cost of doing business. So when we price things by price only, by hourly rate, we're not really valuing ourselves. I mean, in reality, have you ever asked your cardiologist what he charges per hour? We don't ask that question because it's never been that way. They price it based on the labor code, if you will, the medical operation number or the procedure number. And personally, I feel that the automotive industry would prosper if everybody would stop quoting prices over the phone and stop quoting an hourly rate and go back to let's inspect the vehicle and base it on the needs of the vehicle, as opposed to this mythical hourly rate.
Let's find out what's really wrong. Yeah, you can have your menu pricing up for oil changes and the like, but inspections, state inspections. But you're right, and I continue to hear that over and over and over again. Thank you for that. You had mentioned liability. What did you mean by that? Fraud?
Well, we don't really charge by the hour. So, for example, if you brought your car into me, Carmen, the book time for me to change that alternator was an hour, and I have a really sharp guy with the proper equipment, and he gets it done in half an hour, what do we charge the customer? We're going to charge him book time. But in reality, we worked on the car half an hour. So we're not charging by the hour. We're charging by a mythical guide. So what I teach my clients to do is we evaluate every car, because if your car comes in and it's got 100,000 miles on it and you've never touched it and it's covered in oil, it's going to take longer to repair that car than a car that came in that's been serviced every 3,000 or 4,000 miles and is pristine. So we punish the customer who takes care of their car with higher labor times, and we actually give the guy with a car he hasn't taken care of a break, because we're not charging what the value of the car is. Or you put aftermarket wheels and tires on it, or you raised it, or you lowered it. The time book doesn't take any of that. The flat rate book is a fallacy as far as I'm concerned, and we need to evaluate the cars on the actual needs and the condition of the car and use that book as a guide.
Bill, John, can you comment on that, the flat rate book?
Yeah, the flat rate book is just a guide, like Malin said, and we use at our shop and with my guys, we use a labor matrix because you have clients that work in different areas, like upstate Michigan. There's like tons of rust. I mean, brake lines, frames, just mountain tires. It takes another half hour to clean the rust. So, you have to add that cushion in there because you have to add in for the additional things that are going to happen on a normal basis. So that's why if say a water pump, not water pump's not a good thing, but say a wheel bearing is 1.5 and we've got 15% and added on the labor matrix, we're going to get 15% more dollars to do that job. That's going to help the effective labor rate, and that's also going to help bring up the profitability in the shop.
Okay, I love what you just said. How many guys are using those features, the power of the SMS to do that?
Well, my guys are.
Okay, your guys are. Malin, do you see that?
I think the people that use their SMS to even a third of its capability is a pretty small percentage.
Yeah.
They don't understand it well enough to know its capabilities. They're too busy fixing cars to understand the power of that SMS system. I think that's part of our problem is we got to stop fixing cars and become business owners and understand the power of that computer that we paid a lot of money for and use it to its advantage to help us become profitable.
I talked to some guys that come back from seminars that, Malin, John, you would teach, that Bob would teach. And they come home and they say, oh my God, I've been reborn. And they go out and they bump their labor rates up. Never do I hear some guy come back from a meeting and says, I'm going to spend the next 3 days on my SMS and I'm going to get inside of it. I'm going to call them. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to do online training. And I'm also going to find margin and opportunities inside of this piece of software that I let run my business.
Carm, it's very interesting as this is an example I use in class. So you take an average shop owner, if he billed a 1/10 of an hour more per technician per day, what would it mean at the end of the year? It would be huge money. And what's it take to get a 1/10 of an hour? It's using your SMS right. It's estimating properly. It's even just marking the book time up 15 or 20%.
So, Bill, you just told us earlier that you have WinWorks. Do you know it in and out?
I know it fairly well. I've been using it for 20 years now. So
Got it. And you've committed to really learn it and make it a part of your business.
yeah, definitely. Getting back to, we kind of build everything on and we quote everything on the job itself. So we're not counting on any labor matrix. If a car comes in that's heavily rusted, obviously we're going to pad the labor time on that. And, when we quote stuff, we're quoting the total job, what it takes. So we're not quoting hourly time, like it's going to take an hour or my guy can get it done in a half hour, So when we quote customers, everything's on the up and up and, they know the full dollar amount for the job and it's not broken down so that they can get it itemized either by time or some other factor.
Thank you for that, Bill. And guys, don't hesitate to chime in. I do want to thank Jasper one more time. At Jasper Engines and Transmissions, quality and customer service is their #1 goal. Their associates take pride in their work, and it shows in the quality drivetrain products they produce. Their quality and customer service has kept them growing. 75-year young company. Hey guys, let's jump into parts matrices inside the SMS. John, let me ask you, is it easy to set up?
Yes, very easy. I use an article that was in Ratchet and Wrench in 2014, and Bill Haas wrote the article. And it really is a good article with a new client to show them how a parts matrix works. And sometimes, you open up Pandora's box when you show somebody that screen and they have no idea what you're looking at. So you have to start at a certain place and make minor movements, because sometimes shops can be completely upside down on their parts profit. I mean, big time. So you have to move things slowly, because here again, people are afraid, if I'm overpriced, my customers will leave.
It's so interesting, John, that you just said that. The screen looks like Greek to them.
Right.
Where, no disrespect intended, where have they been?
Well, yeah. And one of the things I find, Carm, is the products are good. Like Mitchell's got a good system. Bolt-on makes it palatable, but the reps in the different areas are either good guys and know the systems, or don't know the first thing about the system.
So,
the rep
so,
does.
all right, so we want to get back to this matrix thing, but
Right.
sometimes I'm going to chase this silver bauble that just went across my screen here. Where is the training? John, you've had Mitchell for a long time. Do they come up with enough upgrades that you would go out and say, hey, I love this new feature, train us on it?
Well, that's one part, in my opinion, that they don't do a good job with letting us know about new updates. A lot of times they'll put them on Facebook and they'll do updates, and they don't push them through to every client. So I'll find something new on my system, like a new scheduling program, and I'll find a client. We've had the program for a year, the new scheduler, and he doesn't have it yet. So, I've talked to them that's just a weak point. And I'm lucky enough to have a really, really good Mitchell rep.
Okay. So you got, and you're inside, if you will, you're connected, a great rep helping you with this stuff. Is it, so my question is, Bill, is yours cloud-based?
No, ours is, we got a server computer and then some network stations.
Okay, because that's what I was thinking about. If it was cloud-based, everyone would have the latest versions. It would be easy to have everyone be on the same page. But do you have a choice, Bill, to upgrade or not if there's a new feature?
Yeah, they have annual updates. You can kind of mail in a payment and get an update. We've been looking around, and you talk about the parts matrix. I sat in on a seminar that Shopware put on, and they just rolled out a new feature where they built an algorithm. So there's no parts matrix per se. You set what your markups are and what your desired profitability is, and through the day or through the week, it just goes through and adjusts the parts based on cost to the desired gross profit you're looking for. So kind of a whole different take on, the matrix.
Interesting. Is that Carolyn?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We've had Carolyn on the phone before. Maybe she needs to come and share that algorithm. In fact, we hear about that all the time. Oh, the dreaded Facebook algorithm and stuff. But you're right. There's a lot of intelligence built into code today that really helps with that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to, currently with WinWorks, we have, 3 or 4 different matrices built in there based on where we're sourcing the parts.
Would you mind sharing with us what they are?
Well, the dealership, obviously, that has its own matrix. Stuff we can buy at the parts house has its own, and then the job or warehouse has its own parts matrix as well. And
a default parts house, why would that have a different matrix than if you purchased from a WD or Jobber? I don't understand. Tell me the difference between them.
Well, so we're a Valvoline Express Care Center as well, so we get a better buy on the filters. So, we're obviously going to capitalize on that.
Got it.
And give a bigger markup for those items.
Got it. So, we hear every once in a while, guys say, well, when I go to the dealer and I pay a little bit more, and frankly, I hear they're becoming extremely competitive on dealer parts. But are people, Malin, that you see your clients in the service professionals you speak to each and every week, are they saying, hey, listen, I've got to make my normal margin on the dealer part. It just doesn't matter. The price is the price.
Well, that should be the way it is, because we talk about liability, we got to warranty that part. And they're not going to pay over-the-counter pricing if they go to the dealership and have the part replaced. And our biggest fear in the automotive industry is somebody questioning price. We're not proud enough of what we do to be able to justify it. Everything we have to make money on. And the huge liability we have when we put a part on and something terrible happens, I mean, worst case scenario, it's going to be our butt in a sling, not the parts manufacturer in the beginning. Eventually it'll get to that, the deep pockets. We have a pricing matrix, the one that was spoken about that Bill gives out. We've been using it for 30 years. And that's a markup multiplier. This is what the cost is. This is what I mark it up to get what I need it to be. And most people are so frightened of price that they're afraid to actually charge what they need to. That's where we kind of go back to become a business person. If you saw the markup that the florist makes or the jewelry guy makes or even the hamburger joint down the street, you'd be surprised. I mean, I know what my accountant, his hourly rate is. I don't care. He has a less than 1% audit rate. That's what I care about. I'm willing to pay for that. And most people are willing to pay for service. They're not buying a product anymore, especially in car repair. They're buying an experience. And the better job we do of selling the experience, the less price enters into it. Okay. And, people who are listening to your podcast are already probably the most expensive in their area. Yeah. And they're busy.
Well,
so it's not price.
Here's the story, and every single week this happens and this goes on, that more and more people join in the experience of listening to the podcast, going to the site, downloading the listening app, and are learning from all of this. And so I don't want to say we're only talking to that top 15%, because the beauty of the podcast, it's out there, it's evergreen, it's going to be on demand, and in a year from now, maybe a struggling shop owner says, ooh, let's go listen to this thing on matrix, labor and matrix margins on parts, and learn a ton of things, because they're attempting to go at it on their own without any help. And I guess the way our industry grows is that we continue to talk about these things that we talk about each and every week. Prompts me to ask another question about margin on parts. Bill, without sharing your deepest, darkest secrets, and John, when you play with your matrix, and I don't mean that in a negative way, because you got these things going on, and your margin on a $3 item may be different than the margin on a $200 cost part. What are your average parts margins, guys? How's it all flow down?
We're averaging probably somewhere in the 57% range on our parts markup.
As a business coach, John, is that a good number?
Well, I didn't hear. Was it 57, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. That's Millen. I don't know what he'll say, but I would say it's right on the edge of being expensive. We try to hit somewhere between 50 and 55, and parts are parts, and I think that's going to change as we get more competition, that we're going to be forced to accept lower gross profits on our parts just because of the business model that's changing. And then we're going to have to make more money on labor, because that's our biggest profit center anyway. But we try to focus 50 to 55%.
Okay.
Is where we shoot for. We use a matrix that is broken down into dollars. Like if a part is a penny to $1, it gets a certain markup, and it goes that way. And then you just have to watch when you get higher in price of cost. And I have 2 diesel shops I work with, and this really comes into play there. Or if you're doing a Jasper engine or transmission, it comes into play there. So you don't only have the parts gross profit, but you pay your bills with your parts gross profit dollars. So you could have a week of doing 35% gross profit, but you made $9,000 gross profit dollars. And you could have a week that you made 50% gross profit on your parts, but made $4,500 gross profit on your parts because of your volume. And truck shops tend to use more parts. Trucks eat parts. And
I love that.
yeah, they
That's
tend to be a little bit lower in the high 40s, and that's acceptable because of the volume that we do in dollars.
yeah, big ticket items on fleet and diesel. Malin, I'm going to ask you, when you would take a look at a company that maybe you'd be looking to have as the coach, what are the margins you're seeing on parts?
Well, I think we need to focus on total ticket, because it's correct. We may not be able to make the margin on parts, then we got to make it on the labor. So, what we're looking for, total ticket as an average, is 66% gross profit. So basically keep 66 cents out of every dollar we sell to pay our bills. And, I'd like to see gross profit in the 55 to 60% range on parts and around 70% on labor. But that is changing because not just competition, but the wages we have to pay. The bottom line is we got to start with setting your hourly rate based on your cost of doing business. You got to know what your effective labor rate is, because I'm charging $100 an hour. My need is $80 an hour, but I'm only charging $50. I'm still losing money. And it goes back to understanding your numbers. Forget about what everybody else is doing. What are your numbers? And are you paying your bills? Are you paying yourself? Then you got to work on, again, a 1% increase in gross profit on labor and parts for a year can be tens of thousands of dollars. And that you can do through properly setting up your SMS system, having multiple labor rates, charging a little more for the difficult jobs, marking up the smaller, easier to mark up parts a little more than the more difficult, higher tech parts. It's just a process. If you don't understand the numbers, the score of the game, and your SMS is a huge partner in that, you're going to be like many shops where you're not making enough money to cover your expenses or pay the owner.
You just mentioned effective labor rate. And John, right at the beginning, you talked about that. Wow. Bill, do you know your effective labor rate?
Yeah, we go through every Monday and we compile the previous week's numbers, and that's one of the KPIs that we track.
Got it. Good. So, all right. So good. Everybody's on the same page for that. But yet, as business coaches, John, you brought it up as one of the most important parts. Is that when you start working with a client, is that one of the first things you talk about? Because I guess if you don't know that, the margin of the whole shop, be it labor or parts, would have to be massaged.
Well, yeah, and it has a huge effect on the total gross profit. I mean, if your parts gross profit, just use an example, and I don't have any clients with this number, but say if it was in the 40s, that shop wouldn't be open long. It couldn't survive. We like to see guys in the 70%, and I have some guys that are higher. And multiple labor rates really, really help that. And I just want to share something with Ford is putting out more support for their Power Stroke Pride shops. And they're starting to make sales calls like AC Delco does and like Napa does. And one of my guys in Massachusetts, they were sharing multiple labor rates with the outside repair shop, meaning the shop that I coach. And they were asking how much he charges. And they're instituting, and I also created it for my truck shops, labor rate based on the GVW of what we're working on. And when you're working on a in-chassis engine overhaul on a Peterbilt, there's no way that could be the same labor rate if you're doing brakes and calipers on an F-350. It just can't be. So Ford, I think I might have mentioned it, Carm, Ford realizes that a lot, like over 80% of the people who buy Ford diesels today are having them fixed in independent repair shops. So they're trying to get out and snuggle up to us to make sure we buy good parts for their trucks so they continue with the good reputation. So they want the shops to be successful, so they're helping out with tips where they can.
Good stuff, guys. Yeah, really good stuff. I appreciate this. The academies always seem to go in some real great places, and we end up hitting a couple of home runs during this. So I appreciate so many of the great points that came out. Gross profit dollars. It was a lesson I learned many years ago, that we don't pay our bills with gross profit percent, we pay it with dollars. Is that one of the magical, once someone shop owner gets that, is that a magical breakthrough?
I think it's a starting point. There's a lot of things that are magical in the automotive repair business. Gross profit dollars, absolutely. Productivity, which affects that effective labor rate, in my opinion, is most people are missing the mark. But to go back to something I've said many times, Carm, is these guys invest tons of money to learn new things, and they need to go back and implement. Whether it's learning the SMS system better, whether it's paying attention to effective labor rate, whether it is working on productivity, charging more for older vehicles per hour than maybe some of the newer vehicles, because they're harder to work on. In the East Coast, you got rust. We're pretty fortunate. We get a rusted car, we don't know what to do with it out here. But we get guys that go four-wheel driving through the mud. They should pay more. I mean, every regional area has to look at what their pain points are and charge accordingly, because we can't have this one-size-fits-all pricing anymore. It's just too difficult to do this. So, the way I look at it is, I got my most expensive technician using the most expensive tools, who took the most expensive training. He should not be working for the same hourly rate as the guy who's changing the oil. Not that that's not an important job, but I'm spending tens of thousands on my diagnostic technician. I need to make sure I recoup that money somehow.
Is teaching a new client the matrix hard or easy?
It's not hard to teach them it. It's hard for them to get over the idea they're going to have to charge more money. They still think people are coming to them because of price. So that's the hurdle, I think, is getting them out of the idea that if they raise their hourly rate $2 or $3 an hour and they charge 1 or 2 percentage more points on parts, nobody's going to leave them. And I've had shops have to raise their hourly rate $20 or $30 to be just where they need to be. Forget the effective rate. That's just the projected rate. And they raise it $3 or $4 or $5 a month. And pretty soon they're like, nobody questions it. Nobody says anything. So let's go up the rest. I've had guys go up $20 or $30 in one day, and nobody questions it because they're not coming because of price. But our biggest problem is we don't see the value in what we do, in my opinion. We need to understand what we do is difficult. It's complex. Not many people do it and do it well, and we need to get paid better for it.
Well, that could have been the perfect summary.
I guess I'm done.
But it's not. But it's not. Hey, someone brought up, John, it was you. You said, hey, look at guys, we're going to have to really rethink the margin on parts. Obviously, you could walk out of a shop, go online with your smartphone and find out a price on a part from a million places. And here's $80 on your invoice, and you could buy it for $29. Are you saying that may be a reason to rethink it?
Well, I'm saying that is going to start to be more of a pushback for customers. And in some areas, it is a pushback. If you've got a smaller town and O'Reilly's, I guess it's okay to say O'Reilly's, but O'Reilly's is the main parts place. So this particular shop gets price shopped all the time with O'Reilly's. But you have to talk to the customer in a way that I'm warranting the part. I have a much better warranty than O'Reilly's. Some of my guys are 2 years, some are 3 years. We're 3 years. And the added benefits and features that you get by us doing the job. So you have to add the value. It's not just the part. It's us putting it on and standing behind it.
I understand. But John, do you think that we're going to see a shift between parts margins and labor margins with this transparency of pricing?
I don't. Parts is not. I'm not sure what's going to happen to parts. You got people like Amazon getting involved in it. I can buy Amazon parts, not Amazon parts, but I can buy the same parts from Amazon cheaper than my jobber. Same part. That's a problem. Okay. So, but labor, I don't see. I see that labor needs to go up big time. And I'm, like Malin said, $20, $30. I think most shops. Never seen a shop go out of business because he was too high priced, but lots of them go out of business because they're too low. And I think Cecil said that on his podcast. And I think labor is going to be, it's going to be our profit center. I mean, it's 70% of what we're trying to get for a total profit is labor. So if we have to, squeeze a little more out of labor, that shouldn't be a problem. It's all in how you present it to the customer. And you've got to have confidence that you're worth it. That's a huge problem.
You're right. You're right. Bill, I'm going to put you on the spot again. You've done so well every time I've asked a really tough personal question. Thank you for this. Would you ever see yourself moving to a much higher labor rate and saying to the customer, listen, here's what it cost me $29 for the part, 10% over?
Yeah. I totally can. I mean, it's hard to see how far down the road this stuff's going to play out. But, with Alexa voice and stuff being integrated into cars, I mean, when the person calls and tells their car to schedule an appointment at DeBoer's Auto and the car shows up with the parts delivered by Amazon and we just have to install them. I mean, at the end of the day, we have a cost of doing business. We have to make X amount of dollars to stay in business, pay our people, and continue our training and all that stuff. And whether you get it out of parts or you get it out of labor, there's going to be some sort of, you're going to make what you're going to make to stay alive.
Well, let me dig a little deeper on that. Do you see that you say, listen, you don't have to buy this stuff from Amazon. I'm just going to charge you 10% over. And if you want the warranty and you want my part, you want me to insure this repair, you've got to use the parts. I don't care I don't care if they bought the brand name from Amazon. You have to have a channel to go back if there is a problem. If the part goes bad, you're going to give it back to the customer, and he's got to go do the warranty claim. I mean, there's a problem there. Yeah.
For right now, the way we're doing business, I mean, we just install our own supplied parts, and I don't really see customer supplied stuff. Our policy at our shop is if it's customer supplied, it's double the labor rate and no warranty, and it's been that way for many years. And usually just, it takes care of the problem. The customer either agrees with it or they move on. So. Well,
I know we've kind of offshooted this topic a little bit, but it's good and it's healthy because that's what we do on the show. We talk about stuff.
Hey, Carm, here's my biggest concern coming from a state with more attorneys than people is if you think about this, so the customer buys an alternator from XYZ online and brings it to you and you install it. And down the road, that alternator catches fire and burns the guy's car to the ground. Worst case scenario, right? You might have to prove in court it wasn't your installation that caused the alternator to fail. Now, that's going to require time, effort, and that's a very difficult thing to do. So a lot of what's happening out here is the insurance companies aren't going to cover you if you install a customer furnished part because their liability skyrockets because now they're going to have to prove your installation wasn't the problem.
Right.
So, I think part of our problem in what we do is it goes back to value of what we do. I told a class the other day, I said, look, I went on to Google and I learned how to do an appendix removal and I got a pocket knife here. Who will let me take their appendix out? And I said, I'm pretty sure I can do it because I read it and I watched a YouTube video on it. But nobody would climb up on the table. So it goes back to we have to have confidence in what we do and we have to sell the value of what we do. As was spoken, the warranties, the service, longevity of business, all of those things. And we got to focus more on building value and being, the the car guys than we are about being parts exchangers. And I think that's where we need to focus a lot of our effort into, is becoming that car guy, the person they trust that's going to fix their car. Think about this, Carm. Most people want you to take care of their car because they trust you, not because of what you charge. We're going to get back to that the concierge service mentality that you've talked about before. And I don't care whether you bring me the parts or not. I have to make the same amount of money because my overhead didn't change. So if I can't make it on parts profit, I got to make it on labor. And one of the gentlemen said, you bring me your parts, it's 2 times. A good friend of mine, in fact, the founder of the company I now own, said, friends and family, it's double or nothing because the liability stays the same. And that's really what parts results in. We have liability, and we need to make sure we make X amount of money to accept the risk. That's my take on that.
Well, hold your thoughts, Bill and John, because I'm going to let that be Malin's last word. And I loved it. And I just want to thank Jasper one more time. In addition to the strict quality remanufacturing steps they take at Jasper, they can actually improve a drivetrain component's original design so that it runs longer and better than when it was new. Check out their featured engine and transmission pages at jasperengines.com. Beautiful ending. Gave us a lot to think about, Malin. I'm going to give you the last word, John. But Bill, any final thoughts about our wonderful topic here, or anything that we've talked about?
No, I just completely agree with Malin. I mean, we have the knowledge gap, and that's what we have to get paid for. So, I mean, we need to become better, skilled, oriented at being able to communicate that to the customers. So, I mean, I believe everybody in this industry is way underpaid for what they do. I mean, I was just talking to a shop owner the other day, and we're talking about pricing and such. And, he's a veteran. He's been in the industry for probably 30 years. He just had his one shoulder done this past January. He's going in for his next shoulder, and he's got a knee. I mean, and he's just still undercharging. He's not getting the money that he should be. So, I mean, whether you charge it on parts or you charge it on labor, you got to figure out what you need to make this all worth what you're doing.
Why is it so hard, guys, to not have a hobby anymore, to have a profession? I keep hearing this over and over again. Why is it so hard?
Because they love fixing cars. They didn't go into this business to be a business owner. They went in this business to fix cars.
They love talking to cars. I get it. I get it. John, I'm going to give you the last word. Wrap it up for us.
Well, I chime in with what Bill said and what Malin said. We've got to add value. You can really, put the icing on the cake when you're selling a job by the added value that your shop offers. And don't forget this important part is, if you bring in the technician, like in our shop, we have Pat that works on Porsches, and bringing in that added feature, say Pat's the best guy around on Porsches. He's working on your car today, and we made a good choice in fixing this car, and Pat's the guy that's going to get it squared away, or it'd be Bill or Harry. And then you bring the personal touch in, but it's the adding the value, the stuff that the other guys can't do, the dealerships can't do, the guy on the corner can't do. We're the pros, and we have to have confidence that we are the pros, and the more confidence that we have in ourselves, the better off we'll do for our companies. I
love it. Thank you so much. And it prompts me to promote an episode that we did probably 2.5 to 3 months ago on concierge service. In fact, you mentioned it, Malin. What an incredible episode. I mean, this thing keeps getting listens each and every day. It is such a great episode, and it really talks about taking, this whole value stream to the new and next level. So all I encourage everyone to do is go to the remarkableresults.biz website, find the search button, type in concierge, and it'll pop right up. And guess what? You're going to be in for a great treat. Thank you guys so much for this great Town Hall Academy. Have a great weekend.